Act 4, Scene 1. The building background does a nice job. It just kind of it mentions that this particular scene is kind of the climactic moment of the play regarding the witchcraft and the spirituality and stuff like that. This isn't necessarily the climax, but along with the banquet scene, this is a very memorable scene, as you will see the imagery that's portrayed in a little bit. Imagine that big cauldron and the witches around it. If you the Little Mermaid with Ursula, and she's just throwing junk into her cauldron. I mean, stuff's coming up and weird ingredients, and that's the type of stuff that they're going to be doing. There's a chant going on here at the beginning where they're talking about the ingredients as they're putting it in, stuff like that. But ultimately, Macbeth has come to speak with them, and he's come to find out exactly what his future entails, and do I have to worry about, my fears that I'm having right now. They're going to tell him some things. Remember, Hecate, their goddess of witchcraft, their boss. Remember what she challenged them to be. Okay? What did she challenge them to do? How did she want them to behave? How did she want them to act? And ultimately, what did she want them to say to him? Okay? Be able to pick those three things up and then think, are those good to get that desired result that Hecate wanted? If you were told these three things, would you feel pretty invincible? So pick those things out. Pay attention to the actor notes, the director notes, the things coming on stage, the apparitions and spirits that come about, and keep note of those things because they're pretty relevant. Scene 4, a deserted place. The witches spend, a page here conjuring up their potion, putting things in, chanting. That line of theirs, double, double, toil and trouble, that's a very famous line. Some Jeopardy type line. If they just say, what play is this? And I put that up there, people should know. So it's just very famous, and they repeat it a couple times there. Hecate shows up for her last little cameo at the top of the next page, line 3940. She's pleased. She goes, "Oh, well done. I commend your pains, and everyone shall share in the gains." So I applaud your efforts and your exertions, and everybody is going to gain from those efforts that you've exerted. And now, about the cauldron, sing like elves and fairies in a ring, enchanting all that you put in. So you got everything in there. Now go around and chant, and make it. Make it dark and make it work. Because, as the witch says here in a little bit, she says, something wicked this way comes, which is another very famous line from Macbeth. And that something wicked is, whose entrance? Macbeth. Macbeth comes in, and just right away, it's not, hello, good morning, how are you doing today? Oh, thank you for making me king. Motivate. He just comes straight out and says, you will tell me some stuff. I've come to find you. Answer me. He says, answer me a couple times to what I ask you. Speak. Demand. Will answer. The next page, 373. This is where it starts to get interesting. Imagine this, the cauldron, imagine some sort of haze in a dark, murky setting, and these things start showing up and talking to him. The very first one, take note of, is an armored head of a warrior. Macbeth asks the question, tell me, thou unknown power. I want to know what's going on. Macbeth, 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 beware Macduff, is the first thing it says. Beware the Thane of Fife. So, an armored head telling him, beware the Thane of Fife, beware Macduff. Macbeth's response, whatever thou art, for thy good caution, thanks. Thou hast harped my fear aright. So, thank you for telling me that. I've had this little nagging suspicion, and you telling me that makes me think, I was right. Thank you. Now I feel better about where my relationship with Macduff stands and the reasons for Macduff not showing up when I call him. So the second apparition shows up, which is a bloody child. The second apparition, be bloody, bold, and resolute. Laugh to scorn the power of man, for none of woman born shall harm Macbeth. So we have a bloody child saying that no man born of a woman could harm you. So be bloody, bold, and resolute. Be very cocky. Be very sure of yourself, because there's no man born of a woman that could harm you. Even though he said beware Macduff earlier, Here, it's you. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about any man that was born of a woman. Well, doesn't that take care of most people? Aren't we all born? They don't have, test tube babies in incubators and don't need a mom anymore. Everybody's born of a woman. And so this sounds pretty good. The third apparition, a crowned child with a tree in his hand. Third apparition says, around line 92 or so, Macbeth shall never vanquished be until great Birnam Wood to high Dunsinane Hill shall come against him. Macbeth's response, well, that will never be. How is that possible? That will never be. Who can impress the forest and bid the tree unfix his earthbound root? So what he's saying is, how can the trees get up and march and walk across to me? They can't. This isn't Lord of the Rings where the trees are magical and they can walk and talk and fight and do things. And so they were saying, beware Macduff. You have nothing to fear from any man born of a woman. Okay? And lastly, be careful of, you'll never be vanquished until the trees march on you. Until the trees march to high Dunsinane Hill. He needs to know one more thing, line 100. So he's a lot calmer now. Those are some good things. Now remember what Hecate wanted them to do. Don't forget the witch's motivations. Does it seem to have worked? Macbeth seems a little bit more calm. But he needs to know one more thing. He needs to know, yet my heart throbs to know one thing. Tell me, if your art can tell so much, shall Banquo's issue ever reign in this kingdom? Seek to know no more. I will be satisfied. Deny me this, and an eternal curse fall on you. So ultimately, he needs to know the one thing that's really causing him nightmares, and he needs to know, will Banquo's heirs be king? Don't ask, don't ask. I will be satisfied or curse you. Fine. And then this is one of the most famous moments where we have, if you see the italics down there, it's almost like a parade of ghosts walks across the stage. Okay? And these ghosts represent the lineage of Banquo and Fleance and whomever, okay, on down the road. The apparitions of 8 kings representing the 8 Stuart kings of Scotland. The 8th king representing James I, which, think about this. Remember, after Tudor England, Henry VIII and Elizabeth, remember, she didn't have any kids. And so she had her cousin, James I from Scotland, come down and become the king of England and Scotland and united the kingdom. Remember that story? Okay, he was the Stuart clan. And so Macbeth put this in, Shakespeare put this in, saying that with the person at the end of the line is James. James is a descendant of Banquo. Can you see how that played out? Just in that couple lines right there? Okay? That's kind of a little shout out, a little cameo, because he wrote this play for James I. That's why it's a Scottish tale for his new Scottish king, Scottish English king. And so we have kind of a little shout out, a little cameo. If you're James I, you're watching this, and then there's a representation of you, you're like, good. Well, at least I'm not in the lineage of Macbeth, who was a horrible king. Okay, Banquo was a good, honorable person, and now, oh, I see. Oh, okay, that's kind of funny. Okay. And then there's a mirror in his hand. And Banquo's ghost appears at the end of the procession. And as it'll say later, Banquo's ghost, it's almost kind of just walking behind, just kind of smiling. Because remember his prophecy. You aren't happy as Macbeth, but you are ultimately happier. You won't be king, but you will get kings. And so you can almost imagine, Macbeth, because he's freaking out during this whole line, as you see, as he's saying that stuff on the next page, that's when the parade's happening. And you can imagine Banquo just kind of smiling, waving, something like, you see that line? You? Not so much. Kind of mocking. But just ultimately, he's happier. Okay, because he does have a line. So the answer to Macbeth's question, will Banquo's heirs ever reign? Well, yes. And here's the apparitions. Look at his reactions. Thou art too like the spirit of Banquo. Down, thy crown does sear mine eyeball, skipping. Filthy hags, why do you show me this? Oh, what will the line stretch out to the crack of doom? And yet the 8th appears, who bears a glass which shows me many more. So they can't keep an endless, infinite line going. But the mirror is to represent someone, looking in, and they could see more and more into the future and more heirs beyond just those 8 and such. And then in the blue, for the blood-boltered Banquo smiles upon me and points at them for his. And it's that smiling Banquo that makes that other prophecy true, where he is much happier. Because is Macbeth happy? He's king. Is he happy? No. He's miserable. He can't sleep at night. He's trying to figure out his future. And so now he sees Banquo, who's dead, who's ultimately happier, and he's pointing at them. I did that. That's me. That's not you. And so it plays out that way, and that's a very, very famous scene. But ultimately, he can come back to those 3 things that the witches told him. Okay, you'll never be vanquished, and the trees march on Dunsinane. Well, that's not going to happen. You have nothing to fear from a man born of a woman. Well, aren't all men, that type of thing. And beware Macduff. Well, I can beware Macduff. In fact, I can take care of Macduff. If you look on the last page here, from this moment, line 147, from this moment, the very firstlings of my heart shall be the firstlings of my hand. So whenever I have these thoughts or these feelings about, for example, Macduff, I knew that I shouldn't trust him. I just had these feelings. Next time I have those feelings, I'm going to act upon them. I'm not going to sit on them and question them, is what he's saying. And even now, to crown my thoughts with acts, be it thought and done, the of Macduff I will surprise, seize upon Fife. Give to the edge of the sword his wife, his babes, and all unfortunate souls that trace him in his line. So, he's not bewaring Macduff. He's going and taking out, should Macduff be there? Great. But he's going to go to Macduff's place, his residence, and kill his wife, his kids, anybody else around there. Hopefully Macduff will be there, but he knows that he's fled off with Malcolm and such to England. Okay? So think about what that might do for Macduff. Give him a little fuel for the fire and such. But Macbeth is going to be resolved with what the witches have told him, because that's what Hecate wanted them to do. And those things sound pretty good. How can the trees, like he said, unfix their roots? And every person was born of a woman. So I don't have anything to fear of a man born of a woman. So I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. So yeah, let's go take care of Macduff's family. Let's go nail, the entire lineage and get that out of the play, out of the picture.